You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk. And you know what I'm going to start with? Been starting with it every day since it started. The NBA playoffs, Jazz Nuggets specifically. And before I get into the Nuggets, let me talk about the Jazz. I actually thought they played pretty well. They got production from everyone who you wanted them to get production from. Mitchell, Gobert, Conley, and Clarkson, their big four, all had at least 11 points. Gobert, double-double, 11 and 12. Donovan Mitchell dropping 30 because that's what Donovan Mitchell does. They did get Joe Ingles going. He had 13 points. Even Royce O'Neal contributed. 10 points, 3 steals. The Jazz played well. They just couldn't stop Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. And you know what? There's no shame in that. Jamal Murray played every minute of the second half. He ended up with 42 points. Nikola Jokic was right behind him with 31 points. And he actually ended up with 2 more minutes than Murray. Michael Porter Jr. in 34 minutes dropped 15 points off the bench. He should be starting. I know why he's coming off the bench. To give Mike Malone some firepower there. But make no mistake about it, he's a starter in this league. Jeremy Grant had 13 points in 40 minutes. Paul Millsap, the guy who I keyed in on yesterday, only attempted 4 field goals in 19 minutes. I mean, I'm okay with that when Michael Porter Jr. is contributing. And obviously, Jokic and Murray are going to get theirs. Both these teams played great. Make no mistake about it. This game really could have gone either way. It wasn't until late in the fourth quarter that the Nuggets really pulled away to force a Game 6. This has been a really, really exciting series. Murray and Mitchell should just decide this series by themselves in a one-on-one game. I'm being completely serious. Maybe 2-on-2 if you want to have Jokic and Gobert. This has been a really even series. 2 great young players going at it in Murray and Mitchell. I'm really excited for Game 6. I know this series was kind of hard to get into at first, but this has been one of the most exciting series of the playoffs. It's been very easy to get into once you've started watching the games. Moving on now to Mavs Clippers. And there are 2 things that you need to take away from this game. The first is that Luka Doncic is human. He's going to have an off game. That happens. I mean, this was a really important game. You'd like it to be in a different game, but Look, Doncic has been carrying the Mavs in this series. I can't begrudge him too much for having an off game. I understand the importance of this game. Believe me, I said yesterday that whoever wins this game is going to win this series. I don't see the Clippers losing 2 straight. So yeah, if you're going to have a bad game, do it in a less important game. But, again, Doncic is human. I can't get on him too much. I really can't. He's been carrying the Mavs. It's just human nature that he's going to have a bad game. The second takeaway is that Kristaps Porzingis is really, really important for the Mavericks. That may seem obvious, but realize Doncic was winning games without him. At the end of the day, Porzingis is very, very valuable to the Mavericks. More valuable than some people would lead you to believe. I mean, realize, Game 1, Porzingis gets 2 technicals, and the entire game changes right then and there. Then Game 2, Porzingis drops 23, the Mavs win. In Game 3, Porzingis drops 34, the Clippers win, but Doncic got hurt. That was when he sprained his ankle. At the end of the day, the Mavericks need the two of them playing together. It's okay if they're not at 100%. Porzingis is injury prone. I mean, he's 7'3". Of course he's going to be brittle. But the Mavericks need both of them on the floor together. Can Doncic win some games by himself? Absolutely. But if the Mavericks are really going to do something special and upset a better Clippers team, he needs Porzingis. Some other things that caught my attention: Tim Hardaway continuing his great play in this series. Make no mistake about it, he has been great. He's scored at least 17 points in every game this series. He's hit at least 3 threes. He's been everything that the Mavs could have hoped for, and then some. Trey Burke has been really, really good. Boban Marjanovic got to the free throw line pretty effectively. He just got into foul trouble, 4 fouls in 17 minutes. I mean, he needs to clean that up, but we all love Boban. At the end of the day, the Mavericks lost to a Clippers team that was finally firing on all cylinders. Kawhi Leonard playing great offensively and defensively. We all knew that was going to happen. But Paul George finally woke up. I give him full credit. He was getting hit from all sides. I was killing him. He woke up, he played well defensively, and he was fantastic offensively. He was the high man with 35 points. That's what I was screaming for. This is what I want Paul George to be. This is why I picked the Clippers to win the whole thing before the season started. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are two of the best two-way players in the NBA. They're great offensively and great defensively. This is what the Clippers can do when Paul George is at 100%. He said he was dealing with some mental health stuff. That's why he was struggling. If that's true, okay. You know, I get it. That can negatively affect your play, there's no question. And I'll take George at his word. And with that being said, I give him full credit for being able to put all that aside and play fantastically in a game that he needed to play fantastically in. If George can keep this play up, I'm going to be extremely confident in my pick. Some other things that caught my eye: Montrezl Harrell, 19 and 11 off the bench, one of the best sixth men in the NBA, and he's not even the sixth man on the Clippers. It's Lou Williams. Now, Lou Williams didn't play great, 4 for 7 from the field, only had 8 points in 22 minutes. Williams is better than that, but that's okay. The Clippers are going to get production from their bench, whether it's Williams, Harrell, Jackson, whoever. That's another reason why I picked them. Their depth is just fantastic. Marcus Morris played well, 4 for 6 from beyond the arc. Landry Shamet played well. Good decision by Doc Rivers to put him in the starting lineup. I mean, the Clippers couldn't miss yesterday. 63% from the field and from beyond the arc. They destroyed the Mavericks in every offensive category. Rebounds, assists, free throws. Like I said, this is what the Clippers can do when they're at 100%. They're unbeatable. It's just that simple. Alright, now it's time to preview the 3 NBA games today. I'll start with Magic Bucks. For the Magic, there's really not much I can say. I'd say play through Vujovic, but that's what they've been doing, and they're down 3-1. This series is over. The Magic played them tough, much tougher than I thought they would. I give them full credit. The Bucks were overlooking them in Game 1, but then they woke up, and I really think the Bucks are going to win today. Giannis is going to be Giannis. Middleton is going to be Middleton. Bledsoe is going to be Bledsoe. The Bucks are going to shoot the lights out. I mean, I just don't see how the Bucks aren't gonna win this game. Moving on now to Thunder Rockets. And the Thunder need to get everyone cooking at once. Paul, Schroeder, Shea, Gallinari, Adams, Dort. Get all 6 of those guys cooking, and you'll win this game. Paul, Shea, Schroeder, and Gallinari have, for the most part, been playing well. Yeah, they've had some off days here and there, but for the most part, they've been playing well. If the Thunder get all of them cooking, forget about it. They can outscore this Rockets offensive juggernaut. They do need to give Steven Adams the ball more. Let him use his height and strength advantage. The Rockets don't have a true center. The Thunder do. Let Steven Adams post up Robert Covington. Let him post up PJ Tucker. Let him dunk the ball as many times as he wants. Let him shoot skyhooks, layups, whatever. Feed him the ball. The Thunder have such a huge advantage in this series, they're not using it a lot. When they've gone to him, it's worked. I don't understand why they're not using it. And Luguentz Dort is continuing to, if nothing else, make James Harden work. I mean, you're not going to shut down Harden. He's always going to get his. But Dort is making Harden work. He's slowly turning into one of my favorite NBA players. And this is a guy who I really didn't know anything about a couple of weeks ago. As for the Rockets, they need to tighten up defensively. I mean, that's been a big sticking point in Houston. Mike D'Antoni has said it. We all know that the Rockets are going to score. Harden's going to get his. Gordon's going to get his. Jeff Green has had a really good series. He's going to get his. The Rockets just need to play defense. It's really that simple. The Thunder have really good offensive players, but they're guys that are susceptible to great defensive efforts. And the Rockets do have some good defenders in Tucker and Covington. The thing is, they're both kind of forced to be on Adams and Gallinari. So, Paul, Schroeder, and Shea have weaker defenders on them. So they're going to go off. The Rockets need one of their backcourt players to step up and have a great defensive game. Also, for whatever it's worth, Russell Westbrook is still out. The last NBA game to talk about is Trailblazers-Lakers. Damian Lillard is out for the Blazers, and with that goes any chance that the Blazers had of winning this game. McCollum, Melo, and Nurkic are gonna try to carry the load as best they can, but ultimately, there's only so much they can do without Lillard. This game is going to be a romp. The Lakers are going to destroy the Blazers. LeBron's going to go off. Anthony Davis is going to go off. In fact, I'll say that another Laker is going to go off, and someone who we're not expecting. Whether it's a guy like Kuzma, or Green, or KCP, I don't know, but I think someone's going to go off. Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. I really think this game is going to be a blowout. Moving on now to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I will start with Bruins Lightning. The Lightning played great in this game. They thoroughly outplayed the Bruins. They got to Yaroslav Halak. 40 shots to 25. That's all you need to know. The Bruins only had one shot in overtime. The Lightning had 9. The Lightning were by far and away the better team in this game. They got everyone going that they needed to except Johnson and Sergachev, but that's okay. Blake Coleman stepped up and had 2 goals. Other than that, no one had a multi-point night for the Lightning, and I like that. They're a really, really well-rounded team. The only thing that would scare me about this game for the Lightning is Andrei Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky has been slipping recently. His last 3 games, he's allowed at least 3 goals. He was playing well to start the restart, but he's been slipping recently. The Lightning need to get his head screwed on straight if they're gonna keep winning. Vasilevsky is better than Halak by far. It's not even close. He just has to show it. As for the Bruins, and this goes to my point about them being outplayed, they really only had 2 players play great this game. Brad Marchand and David Pasternak. Patrice Bergeron didn't even play great. I don't know why he wasn't on the ice that much compared to the rest of his line mates. He played 18 minutes, Marchand played 21, and Pasternak played 22. That was bizarre to me. I didn't get that. But the Bruins need more than just the perfection line clicking. They really need that second line of Jake DeBrusk, David Krejci, and Andre Kasha. But they were invisible in this game. This was a bad effort for the Bruins. They were really outclassed in this game. This was a really disconcerting effort by them. Moving on now to Canucks Golden Knights. And this game would infuriate you as a coach. The old cliches are you have to play a full game. You have to play 3 full periods. Play 60 minutes of quality hockey. Well, neither team did that. Yet one of them, the Canucks, scored 5 goals. The Canucks dominated the first and third periods. But the Golden Knights dominated the second period. They outshot the Canucks in the second period 22-7. To put that into perspective, the Canucks only had 27 shots this whole game. But give Jacob Markstrom a ton of credit. Markstrom played great in this game, faced 40 shots, made 38 saves. This was probably the best game he's had in the restart, except for Game 3 of the Wild series, when he shut them out. But this was a really well-rounded effort by the Canucks. Bo Horvat had 2 goals. Elias Pettersson had 3 points. Tyler Toffoli comes back after missing 10 games and puts up 3 points. What a fantastic effort by Toffoli. If they can get him cooking, the Canucks are going to be a really tough out. Alex Edler also played well, 2 assists, and he was a +4. This was a great game for the Canucks. And the Golden Knights just need to support Lehner a little bit more. You gotta have more than just one good period. And for God's sake, tighten up defensively. That's the Achilles heel of this Golden Knights team. They're not a good defensive team. If they don't tighten that up, especially with Toffoli being back and seemingly not missing a beat, I don't see how the Golden Knights win this series. Alright, now it's time to preview today's 3 games. I will start with Islanders Flyers. For the Islanders, don't change anything. Alright, seriously. Don't change a damn thing. Keep the lines the same. Keep the strategy the same. Keep everything the same. You have Semyon Varlamov playing the best hockey he's ever played in his life. You have the offense cooking, the defense cooking. For God's sake, don't change anything. I mean, Trotz isn't going to. This may sound really obvious, but what else can I say? They've been playing fantastic hockey. As for the Flyers, they need to get off to a better start. They were destroyed in the first period by the Islanders. They couldn't get anything going offensively. They got outshot 15-4. They allowed Varlamov to settle in, and he was unstoppable. If the Flyers can generate consistent opportunities in the first period. That bodes really well for them going forward. They'll know what works. Trotz will look to counter it. He's very good at making in-game adjustments. And then Vigneault will have to counter that by designing something else that works. This is going to be a really interesting chess match between Trotz and Vigneault. Really good coach in Vigneault. Future Hall of Famer in Trotz. Moving on now to Lightning Bruins. And for the Lightning, it really just boils down to Vasilevsky. That's it. The offense is going to play great. The defense, anchored by Victor Hedman, who's been having a fantastic playoffs, is going to play great. It's all about Vasilevsky. If he can go back to being the Vasilevsky of old, the Bruins really don't have a chance. Like I said, he's better than Halak. He just needs to show it. It's just that simple. As for the Bruins, they need to get their whole team cooking. They can't rely on just the perfection line. They have to get other players involved. I'm looking at guys like Torrey Krug, David Krejci, Charlie Coyle, Jake DeBrusk, Charlie McAvoy, Andre Kasha, Sean Corrali. You can't just have one line going and expect to win playoff games. That doesn't work. You have to get the whole team cooking. If they don't, the Bruins are going to be in the hole. Moving on now to Avalanche Stars. For the Avalanche, it's really simple. Just tighten up defensively, for the love of God. Their offense hasn't been bad. They've generated opportunities. They've gotten to Khudobin somewhat, but they've allowed 10 goals in the first 2 games. And when you have Pavel Francouz in net, the defense needs to play great. I'm looking at everyone. Cale Makar, Ryan Graves, Samuel Girard, Ian Cole, Nikita Zadorov, Kevin Connaughton. Every single one of those guys needs to step up. I said pretty early on in the restart that the Avalanche were my pick to represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals. I even picked them to sweep the Stars. They're making me look like an idiot. I don't like looking like an idiot. Step up. Believe it or not, there actually is a Yankees story that I want to talk about. This is despite the fact that they haven't played since Thursday. They were supposed to play yesterday, but they got rained out. But there is still some Yankees news to talk about. According to Andy Martino of SNY, Brian Cashman has been in touch with the Indians about Mike Clevenger, and he's been in touch with the Giants about Kevin Gausman. Mike Clevenger, we all know this, was sent down to the alternate site because him and Zach Plesac violated team protocols. They put everyone at risk, and give the Indians credit. They took a stand. They didn't want the whole team getting infected. So they sent them both down. I mean, now Clevenger is back up with the team, but they sent a very strong message, and I commend them for it. Now, the logical conclusion to that message is to trade Clevenger and Plesac. But I don't think I would do that. These guys are too talented. Mike Clevenger is one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball. Dating back to 2017, he's never had less than a dozen wins and a 3.11 ERA. He has injury concerns, no question. But he's still a great pitcher. Don't cut your nose to spite your face. Realize, by next year, the coronavirus will hopefully and probably be controlled. I really think we're going to have treatments and maybe, just maybe, a vaccine. I understand that you want to send a strong message. We will not tolerate this. This is inexcusable, indefensible, whatever word you want to use. But don't cut your nose to spite your face. If I was Chris Antonetti or Mike Chernoff, no way would I trade Clevenger or Plesac. Kevin Gausman, on the other hand, makes a lot more sense. I understand that he's not having a great year. 1-1 with a 4.65 ERA. And last year, he really wasn't that good. 3-9 with a 5.72 ERA. The Reds put him in the bullpen, for goodness sake. But this guy knows the AL East. And he actually has pitched well against the AL East. With the exception of the Red Sox, he's killed the whole division. Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays. He's never faced the Orioles. But I'm sure he'd kill them. He knows the hitters, after all. I don't mind Cashman going after Gausman. That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. Don't give up too much. Be smart with it. Obviously, you don't need to overpay for him. But the Yankees obviously need pitching. Just Cole and Tanaka aren't going to get the job done. Gausman can be a solid back end of the rotation starter for him. While I'm on the subject of the Yankees, you know how I've been giving you Yankee shows every Monday at 6? I'm still going to do that, but next week, the show is going to fall on August 31st. That's the trade deadline. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to turn that show into a New York Yankees trade deadline recap. Similar to what I did for the Islanders. Moving on now to the Cardinals signing Buda Baker to a blockbuster extension. And this did break before yesterday's show was posted, but I'll be honest with you. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, so the show was pre-recorded. When the news broke, I was already in the waiting room. There was nothing I could do. So, I'll talk about it now. Nothing serious with the doctor. Again, I'll just talk about it now. It was kind of funny to see all the Jets fans scream bloody murder over this. Hey, look, the Cardinals paid their great safety. Why couldn't we pay ours? Well, hold on a minute. Jamal Adams was pushing for a contract worth anywhere from 15 to 20 mil per year. Buda Baker got 14.75 mil. Just a little bit over Eddie Jackson. Yes, Buda Baker is now the highest paid safety in the NFL in terms of AAV. For whatever it's worth, the total contract was worth 59 mil. That does not make him the highest paid safety in the NFL. That puts him behind Landon Collins and Kevin Byard. You're right that Baker is now the highest paid safety when you look at AAV. And Jamal Adams is better than Baker. I'm not taking anything away from Baker. Really good safety. Same draft class as Jamal Adams. It's not the greatest look in the world that Baker got paid but Adams didn't, but it is a different situation. Again, Adams was looking for a contract in the $15 to $20 million range per year. That's insane! The Cardinals didn't do that. I can pretty much say with a high degree of confidence that Jamal Adams would have been the league's highest paid safety in any benchmark you wanted to look at. Total value, AAV, total guaranteed, whatever. The Cardinals didn't do that here. They just made Baker the highest paid safety in terms of AAV. That's it. And they didn't even exceed it by that much. Just $150,000. Also, I wouldn't exactly point to the Cardinals as being the model of intelligent decisions. I'm not saying this is a bad move. The move makes a ton of sense. Baker has been a really good safety ever since entering the league. He's never had a Pro Football Focus grade worse than 65.9. Last year, it was 71.4. He played every snap last year. He's a really good safety. I'm not knocking the move, but don't say that the Arizona Cardinals did this, so the New York Jets should do it. The Cardinals finished last in their division last year. They went 5-10-1. The Jets were better. They finished 7-9. They were third in their division. Granted, it wasn't a huge difference, but still, they were better. You can't draw a comparison from this to Jamal Adams. That doesn't work. Those are people that just hate Adam Gase. They hate anything the Jets do. You know, they're not going to be happy until the Jets win a Super Bowl. You don't win a Super Bowl overnight. You have to build up to it. And I'm not saying the Jets are, really, really close to a Super Bowl, but I can tell you, I think they've pointed the ship in the right direction. It was much better to trade Jamal Adams and get all those picks than it would have been to give him possibly $20 million a year. Another story that broke while I was at the doctor was Kasperi Kapanen being traded. He got sent back to the team that drafted him in the Penguins, along with Pontus Aberg and Jesper Lindgren for the 15th overall pick, Evan Rodriguez, Philip Hallander, and David Warsofsky. Warsofsky and Aberg are pretty much nothings. Lindgren and Hallander are supposedly solid prospects. Again, I really don't follow minor league hockey that closely, so I can't give you any scouting reports on them. But I can talk about the other pieces. Kasperi Kapanen is a solid second liner in this league. In a perfect world, would you put him on the third line? I guess, but he's fine on the second line. He has the talent necessary to play there. Last year for the Leafs, he had 36 points in 69 games. Really good player. And the Leafs are in cap hell. The Leafs have no cap space. Like, literally, none. And they have to pay Cody Ceci, Tyson Barrie, Travis Dermott, and Ilya Mikheyev. Yeah, they're going to have to make some tough decisions. Kapanen is due to count for $3.2 million against the cap. Now, that's not an overpay by any stretch, but the Leafs just can't afford it. He signed for 2 more seasons, and then he's a restricted free agent. So the Penguins will have him for a while. In exchange for giving up Kapanen, the Leafs got the 15th overall pick and Rodriguez. Rodriguez is really a nothing burger. He's not terrible, but he's not great. There are worse players to have on the fourth line than him, but again, he's really not that special. The 15th overall pick is where some Penguins fans are screaming bloody murder. You know, we gave up this prime asset, the 15th overall pick, and all we get is Kasperi Kapanen. That doesn't sound that good, but Jim Rutherford really likes Kapanen. That was the first draft pick that Rutherford made as Penguins GM. I don't think he ever wanted to trade Kapanen in the first place. He was traded in the Phil Kessel trade. So this is just hitting the undo button. And that 15th overall pick, what were the Penguins going to get with it? Their window to win is now. That 15th overall pick was going to take a while to develop, whoever it was. It wasn't going to be anyone like Lafreniere, I can promise you that. I don't mind this trade for the Penguins. I really don't. You want to tell me the Leafs won it because they got the 15th overall pick for a player who really isn't worth that? I get that, and I'm with you there. But I don't mind this trade for the Penguins. I'm going to give a 60-40 edge to the Maple Leafs. Not a bad trade for the Penguins at all. Speaking of the Penguins, it seems like there's going to be a shakeup in net form. Rutherford intimated to Josh Yohe of The Athletic that he's going to have to trade either Tristan Jarry or Matt Murray. While Jarry is younger and he had the better year, I feel like he's the guy who has to go. For starters, Jarry isn't that much younger than Murray. Jarry was born on April 29th, 1995. So he's 25 years old right now. Matt Murray was born on May 25th, 1994. So he's 26. Alright, 1 year difference. And Matt Murray is a proven playoff performer. You don't win the Stanley Cup in 2016 without him. And 2017, it was Fleury partially, but it was Murray partially. You owe a lot more to Matt Murray than you do Tristan Jarry. And also, Murray didn't play bad against the Canadiens. He played in 3 games that series. The first game, he gave up 2 goals in regulation. That's fine. The second game, he only allowed 1 goal. Fantastic. The third game, he laid an egg. He gave up 4 goals. Okay, fine. You telling me Marc-Andre Fleury never laid an egg in the playoffs? That's a bunch of nonsense. Tristan Jarry started Game 4 of that Canadian series, and he played well. He only allowed 1 goal. But, look, the Penguins just owe more to Murray. And Murray didn't have a terrible season this year. He finished with 20 wins in 38 starts, 287 goals against, a 900 save percentage. It's not great, but it's not bad. The Penguins are going to bring in a new coaching staff to work under Mike Sullivan. They're going to retool their roster like crazy. Give Murray another chance. I have no problem with them trading Tristan Jarry to help the rest of their roster. But don't trade the guy who won you the cup in 2016 and was a big part in you winning the cup in 2017. The last story to talk about today concerns the Pacers firing Nate McMillan. He was just signed to an extension for next season. So, evidently, it didn't cost the Pacers a lot of money in terms of guarantees, because they reversed course incredibly quickly. I mean, I understand why you're firing him. You got embarrassed against the Heat. I thought that was going to be a really competitive series, and you ended up getting swept. I get it. But that's not a good look, to sign someone to an extension and then immediately turn around and fire him. If you weren't 100% sold on McMillan, don't give him that extension in the first place. Say to him, we want to wait and see how you do against the Heat. That's perfectly fine. I mean, that's a joke. I understand that McMillan underwhelmed as Pacers coach. He was a good regular season coach. He always finished with an over 500 record. But in his 4 years there, they only won 3 playoff games. And that was in 2018, when they took the Cavs to 7 games. Remember that? And if you go a little bit more in the past, he never won a playoff series with the Trailblazers. His last year with the Supersonics, he did win a playoff series. He beat the Kings in 5 games, but then he lost to the Spurs in 6. So this guy has been a coach for 16 seasons and has only won 1 playoff series. Look, I don't mind the Pacers getting rid of him. I mean, you need to make that jump from being a really good team to a great team. And that means finding a coach who can win you playoff series. McMillan isn't that guy. He's a great regular season coach, but a lousy playoff coach. Having said that, though, I do think McMillan is going to land on his feet. The Pelicans do make some sense for him. And worst comes to worst, he spends some time as a top assistant. You can do a lot worse than having Nate McMillan as your lead assistant coach. But I think this could bring about bigger changes for the Pacers. It wouldn't surprise me if Victor Oladipo got traded if he didn't commit long-term to him. Miles Turner could also be traded. He's a guy who's always been good, but he was expected to make that leap to great, and he didn't. I like Turner. I think he's a solid player, but you just want a little more from him. This could be the start of big changes for the Pacers. As for who they're going to get to replace McMillan, I think they're going to look for a guy with success in the playoffs on his resume. A guy like Tyronn Lue would make perfect sense for him. I don't see them going with an assistant coach. This move signals that they want to win now. And they're willing to do it by any means necessary. I don't see them bringing in an unproven assistant. Tomorrow, you're going to get an interview that I'm going to do with Lou Friedman, the author of a book about the 1980 Phillies. I've talked to him in the past on Beyond the Game. He's a really smart guy, and I'm hoping to talk to him in the future about his book on Cy Young. Look for that next month. But tomorrow, look out for the interview with him about his book on the 1980 Phillies. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying, shout out to you, Lucas Giolito.